Hello, hello, everyone. How fantastic was the keynote just before? Just listen on design research role, enabling agile collaboration from Pauli and from STBI. Next up on the stage, we have as much as fantastic speaker, Liane Mugnori, her senior service designer at Marathon XP, psychologist by training, designer by trade, and a devout urbanist. Liane is going to inspire us for a talk on the urgency of complexity. Please, Liane, the stage is yours. Hey, Liane, sorry for interrupting you. I think we cannot hear you.
Hello, testing.
Yeah, perfect. We are good to go.
Great. Okay.
Nice.
So let's try and redeem some time. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are, and welcome. So I'd like to throw us in the interest of time. I would like to travel back in time to an era where I was much cuter, and during my formative years in school, most of the responses that I used to get, or rather the my teachers used to say that if I only focused a bit more and not have my brain all over, I would perform so much better. But then in university, when I was taking my undergraduate in psychology, the class in gestaltism about, that the whole is better than, or rather it's better to look at things of the as a whole rather than its pieces, it made me feel like I was fitting, I had a place in the world, rather that I was appreciated. And speaking of which, now this lady who is Liane Mugnori, I am now a service designer at Marathon XP with basis of operation in 3 countries. So that's Kenya, we have Spain and South Africa. So here my worldview of how I look and solve problems is appreciated, and I get to practice it every day. So it's really great. Now, urgency of complexity. It sounds complicated, right? But not so much. I'd like for us to imagine that you're taking a walk. It's a beautiful day, and then there's a group of people, and obviously you get curious and you drove by. You see there's someone who has a compound fracture, and for guys who haven't gone to medical school, similar to me, this is what a compound fracture looks like, and it kind of looks painful. But that aside, you can clearly see what the problem is. It's a difficult one. It needs a specialist within the medical field. But then, obviously, other questions will be asked, like what caused the fracture, or how did it occur? And a car accident is probably the problem. So now an additional sector comes into play, which is the law enforcement. And if you keep asking questions, so is this really the problem? You kind of tend to find out that maybe there was a drunk driver or someone who's sleep deprived because they have a poor work balance. But then someone else in that same crowd could ask, okay, how many car accidents usually happen on this road, and how often does it happen? You see, other problems start to emerge. And so this is a good picture of what complexity is. And as designers, the good thing about a complex system is that there is multiple possible solutions for a problem that exists within a complex system. So that being said, I'd like us to distinguish between what is a complicated and complex problem, because they're 2 different things. And the main thing to know is that there are so many interconnections and integrations within a complex system. It's a web, and so that means there's a lot of interconnections of professions. So collaboration then comes about, and it requires a lot of experimentation and adaptability to see what mix of solutions can be the best to apply to then bring about long-term change in the positive direction. So in the current world that we are in, all the globalization, which is basically an integration of so many economies, cultures, and infrastructures, which has been brought about by advancements in transport, communication, and even technology, has given us a new challenge, which is very complex, because again, I almost caught myself there. So, and this is basically what we call the Anthropocene. And how we've tried to deal with that is with the Sustainable Development Goals that were penned in 2015. And unfortunately, some businesses or companies have used it incorrectly, either as a marketing gimmick, so it's not necessarily what they practice, but just what they preach. And so my question was, how can we really reclaim sustainability? How can we make sure that the products, the services that we are designing are not adding on to the problem? And the answer for me was regenerative design, which is ideally not just about doing as little harm as possible, but actually causing healing. So in the case of our fracture, it's the orthopedic surgeon is basically a short-term solution with a cast, but the healing will take a longer time, and that's what regeneration is about. So another way to look at it is in numbers. 2/3 businesses operate as usual, which is very degenerative in practice. And so the idea is to move towards that 30% that we're seeing on the right side of this continuum. And so the question then is, how do we move along that incline, right? And something that's uphill already feels like a bit of a task, but it doesn't mean that it's impossible. So this is a model that I like, because it shows that on the far end, that every piece of design work, whether it's digital or tangible, like a city, it all exists within the natural world. So it's in our best interest to cater for that when we're thinking about our design practices. So what things can we change in order to create that transition in our design practices? And I think for me, the one thing is our mindset, because as designers, we make or craft things twice. First, as a concept in our minds, and then secondly, in that natural world that we were talking about. And one way to do this is to move to a more life-centered, which is holistic way of looking at design or practicing design. So thinking of non-human actors that will be affected either positively and negatively, and then adjusting accordingly. So prototyping as much as possible. And the second one, because we know as businesses, margins need to be met, is moving to a more circular economy. So closing those loops of production using whether it's technical or technological advancements. How can we repurpose that waste and put it back into the system, and basically material efficiency, right? And this is a fantastic quote for me, because again, it goes back to that idea of creating things twice. So how can you capture that waste in the initial thought process? So what can we do? We both know, some of us are aware of, if not most of us, of the business model canvas as it exists, and the majority of the focus is usually on money in, money out. So this is another way to look at it, where it's an ecosystem view, and you're thinking about all the different actors, stakeholders, who are going to be affected directly, indirectly, and along a continuum in terms of time. And the most important thing is also to monitor, because complex systems are adaptive, they have emergent behaviors. So data collection and data analysis and synthesis over time is going to be very crucial in order to determine what we're going to be tweaking or switching up. So 2 examples. One is Patagonia. They are in the circular economy practice, and it's about reuse and repair economy. So they want to keep materials in circulation as long as possible, but again, do it in a quality way. And then secondly, Parlay for Oceans. So these ones, the focus is on material innovation and collaboration across various institutions and industries. So you can check them out, and there are so many more examples. You can reach out on LinkedIn or wherever else, and we can have a chat about all the other examples that exist out there. So are there really any benefits to moving to a more regenerative practice other than just sustainability? And I would say these are just 5, but I'd like to focus on the 2 that you see on your screen. So the first one is increasing effectiveness. So it's about effectiveness over efficiency, because efficiency then feeds into the globalization practices, which have led us to the issues that we are in. But then when you have less materials that you have to fish out of wherever other value chains, it becomes you're basically making or prioritizing resource efficiency and minimizing the waste throughout the production and consumption cycles. And then the second one is de-risking your business, because a lot of legislations are now moving or requiring businesses to operate sustainably. So the faster you can get ahead of it, it means that you're in business longer, and you're also attracting talent and consumers who are already in line or consistently shifting towards a more regenerative value system. So to recap, the idea is to be curious. So ask questions, ask why not, observe and experiment. Because again, complex systems are adaptive. Be bold. So shatter that business as usual ceiling and think outside of the box. Be a pioneer, essentially. Be deliberate. So that means have a strategy, leverage data, and take advantage of technology to help you with that deliberation. And then lastly, be an activist with others. So collaborate across sectors, share knowledge, have share industry practices and also frameworks that can be adapted across different industries. So my question to you is, are you ready for the long game? Thank you so much. And now we are open for questions.
Hey, Liane, thank you so much for your presentation. It was amazing. Thank you for like sharing your expertise on complexity and how to reclaim sustainability, to mindset and tools to shift to regeneration. All very like pertinent for the time being. Throughout the talk, our team captured some attendees' question, and I'm gonna pull them out for you. There is like one question on, can you quickly explain more about the benefit of attracting talent and investment?
Okay. So we are constantly, the conversations around sustainability are becoming more and more mainstream. And so that means, especially like with the demographics as they are, it means a lot of Gen Zs and millennials are thinking more sustainably. So they want to spend their money in places where it's, the value system of the business is aligns with that. And that also means students who are coming out of college, they also want to work in a place where they feel they're adding value. They're not just there to get the money and survive. So that's on attracting talent. And in terms of investment, it basically goes to supply and demand. So if customers are demanding more, then investors will see an opportunity there, and they'll also want to put their money where the future is going, essentially.
Yeah, I like as a young talent, let's say, I cannot agree more. Like I feel like in this moment, like the generations are really not satisfied of working just for money. So I can confirm that from my side. And
Yes.
there is another question. That is, you mentioned about not being afraid of belonging, but oftentimes the system is hostile and belonging feels forced. How can you foster belonging through design?
Oh, that's a very good question, because when it comes to regeneration, it's about that triple bottom line, right? How so it's about creating not only profit in the sense of economics, but also ecology and society. So if we want, so I'll use an example of designing for cities. It's can we create situations or spaces that then allow for how do we call them? It's like accidental meetings that are more generic, more organic. Because if I have a library that has a playground where people can skate, automatically the people who are there, they probably like those two things combined, which is a unique combination in itself. And so in a sense, you already find a belonging, or you find a physical space that embodies the things that you like and the things that you prefer. So I definitely agree with that finding belonging it's I've already just sighed to just explaining how it's difficult finding those places. But the good thing about technology is that there's so many community of practices that are set up, and the beauty of SEOs is that it makes it that much easier to find, even across different cultures. So it even enriches that experience of finding belonging. It might take some time, but it's worth the effort.
Yeah, I agree. And again, like here, this is an example of like an actor with like-minded people. And on the
Yeah.
example that you did with like the skate park and the library, might be as well that if you put two realities together, they at the end kind of contaminate, let's say. And this is also something that could be nice. Okay. I think we have a last question.
And the last thing just on that is that fostering belonging, it takes intentionality. So it's about thinking, so that could be a design question or a design challenge. How do we foster, how do we create for belonging? And then thinking about that in terms of where I am and who else can I collaborate outside of my sector or my field to help me make this thing a reality.
Yeah, I'm just writing down this because I want to think more about it. Yeah, so okay. Considering that not a lot of brands currently have sustainability as a priority or may not have the bandwidth, and do use it more as a PR, like as a sort of greenwashing, how wait, there is like how can
We
yeah.
convince third
Yeah,
party.
how can there is a person on the I cannot see it. How can we convince them as a third party organization to adopt sustainability practice?
Unfortunately, again, because they're in that 60%, so they care more about money. So how can you frame that sustainability conversation within an economic model? It's basically you're Trojan horsing sustainability through economics, because in the end, the business needs to survive. I mean, there are also people who are the employees that are surviving from that employment. So it's framing the conversation in a way that they would be more willing to listen to that conversation. So you're not forcing them to hear it, you're not preaching at them, you're having a conversation dialogue, and you're creating an opportunity for that engagement to then see if, because the idea sometimes it's not even to change them completely, it's just to have them think about sustainability. And then as they're going through their life, they'll be like, okay, I think what they said makes sense. So it's a slow process, which is why it's a long term, it's a long game.
It is. But this is also so pertinent, right? Because sometimes I think one quality that is developing more in designers and should be almost taught in school is like how to not just speak the user language, and like advocating for users is important, but also speak like business is very important. So
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we have 2 minutes. Very much last question. When you asked what to change, you said your mindset. How can we started to question our mindset and foster that change?
Oh, that's a good question. It always helps to speak with people who think differently than you, because then it almost forces you to hold space for contradicting or different ideas than what you hold, or different beliefs and values. It doesn't mean that you change yours entirely, but then when you're reflecting and thinking about, okay, so someone said that sustainability and regeneration is just, it's not happening. So what does that mean? Sometimes I think that reflection, so there's reflection, and secondly, there's interacting with people outside of your echo chamber, because it's easy to just find people who think like you and you keep affirming each other. Oh yeah, we are the saviors of the universe. But having a contradictory voice, or someone who just keeps challenging how you think, is a very important tool to kind of not only shift your mindset, but also help you really figure out what exactly you want to get to with your design practice, with your design thinking, how you practice that in your day-to-day work, or even just life itself, because design thinking doesn't just have to be in the business setting. And that's how you hone it, really.
Yes,
I hope
yes.
I've answered that question,
I think
because
largely,
mine's
yes.
it's
Basically, going out of your echo chamber and like out of your bubble, talk to different people. The one with different opinion are always the more interesting conversation at the end. So, yeah.
Yes.
So
And making
we
those conversations less academic. So just tell it in form of a story.
right, right.
Yeah, a story that they know about. Like when you toss out that can, where does it go? And yeah, just have that
Yeah, right, right.
personal story.
use less. Big words are not. There is also this misconception. Always use big words. Sound smarter. Not really. People will just be too confused to answer you. Okay, so we are out of time, but big thanks to our speaker Liane and to all of you for joining this talk.